Hello, everyone. In an effort to improve my reading skills, we are moving on to chapter 15 in the book of Genesis, the Douay Rheims Bible. So here we go. Chapter 15. God promiseth seed to Abram, his faith, sacrifice and vision. Verse 1. Now when these things were done, the word of the Lord came to Abram by a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy protector, and thy reward exceedingly great. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me? I shall go without children? And the son of the steward of my house is this, Damascus Eliezer? And Abram added, But to me thou hast not given seed, and lo, my servant, born in my house, shall be my heir. And immediately the word of the Lord came to him, saying, He shall not be thy heir, but he that shall come out of thy bowels, him shalt thou have for thy heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said to him, Look up to heaven, and number the stars, if thou canst. And he said to him, So shall thy seed be. Abram believed God, and it was reputed to him unto justice. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought thee out from Ur of the Chaldees, to give thee this land, and that thou mightest possess it. But he said, Lord God, whereby may I know that I shall possess it? And the Lord answered and said, Take me a cow of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years, and a ram of 3 years, a turtle also, and a pigeon. And he took all these and divided them in the midst, and laid the 2 pieces of each one against the other. But the birds he divided not. And the fowls came down upon the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. And when the sun was setting, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and a great and darksome horror seized upon him. And it was said unto him, Know thou beforehand that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land not their own, and they shall bring them under bondage, and afflict them 400 years. But I will judge the nation which they shall serve, and after this they shall come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall return hither, for as yet the iniquities of the Amorites are not at the full until this present time. And when the sun was set, there arose a dark mist, and there appeared a smoking furnace and a lamp of fire passing between those divisions. That day God made a covenant with Abram, saying, To thy seed will I give this land, from the river of Egypt even to the great river Euphrates, the Sinines and Cenozites, the Sedmonites and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, the Rephaim also, and the Amorites, and the Chanites, and the Girgasites, and the Jebusites. Chapter 16. Abram marrieth Agar, who bringeth forth Ishmael. Verse 1. Now Sarah, the wife of Abram, had brought forth no children, but having a handmaid, an Egyptian, named Agar, she said to her husband, Behold, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. Go in unto my handmaid, it may be I may have children of her at least. And when he agreed to her request, she took Agar the Egyptian, her handmaid. 10 years after they first dwelt in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, to wife. And he went in to her, but she, perceiving that she was with child, despised her mistress. And Sarah said to Abram, Thou dost unjustly with me. I gave my handmaid unto thy bosom, and she, perceiving herself to be with child, despiseth me. The Lord judged between me and thee. And Abram made answer, and said to her, Behold, thy handmaid is in thy own hand. Use her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarah afflicted her, she ran away. And the angel of the Lord, having found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, which is in the way to Sur in the desert, he said to her, Agar, handmaid of Sarah, whence comest thou, and whither goest thou? And she answered, I flee from the face of Sarah, my mistress. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Return to thy mistress, and humble thyself under her hand. And again he said, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, and it shall not be numbered for multitude. And again, Behold, said he, thou art with child, and thou shalt bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. He shall be a wild man, his hand will be against all men, and all men's hands against him. And he shall pitch his tents over against all his brethren. And she called the name of the Lord that spoke unto her, Thou the God who hasn't seen me. For she said, Verily, here have I seen the hinder parts of him that seeth me. Therefore she called that well, the well of him that liveth and seeth me. The same is between Cades and Barad. And Agar brought forth a son to Abram, who called his name Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Agar brought him forth Ishmael. Chapter 17. The Covenant of Circumcision. Verse 1. And after he began to be 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly. Abram fell flat on his face, and God said to him, I am, and my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name be called any more Abram, but thou shalt be called Abraham, because I have made thee a father of many nations. And I will make thee increase exceedingly, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and between thy seed after thee, and their generations, by a perpetual covenant, to be a God to thee, and to thy seed after thee. And I will give to thee, and to thy seed, the land of thy sojournment, all the land of Canaan, for perpetual possession, and I will be their God. Again God said to Abraham, And thou therefore shalt keep my covenant, and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which you shall observe between me and you, and thy seed after thee. All the male kind of you shall be circumcised, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, that it may be for a sign of the covenant between me and you. An infant of 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. Every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house, as well as the bought servant, shall be circumcised, and whosoever is not of your stock. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for a perpetual covenant. The male whose flesh of his foreskin shall not be circumcised, that soul shall be destroyed out of his people, because he hath broken my covenant. God said also to Abraham, Sarah, thy wife thou shalt not call Sarah, but Sarah, and I will bless her, and of her I will give thee a son, whom I will bless, and he shall become nations, and kings of people shall spring from him. Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, saying in his heart, Shall a son, thinkest thou, be born to him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bring forth? And he said to God, Oh, that Ishmael may live before thee. And God said to Abraham, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. and I will establish my covenant with him for a perpetual covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have also heard thee. Behold, I will bless him, and increase and multiply him exceedingly. He shall beget 12 chiefs, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bring forth to thee at this time and the next year. And when he had left off speaking with him, God went up to Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all whom he had bought, every male among the men of his house. And he circumcised the flesh of their foreskin forthwith, the very same day, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 99 years old when he circumcised the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was full 13 years old at the time of his circumcision. The self same day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house, as well they that were born in his house, as the bought servants and strangers were circumcised with him. Chapter 18. Angels are entertained by Abraham. They foretell the birth of Isaac. Abraham's prayer for the men of Sodom. Verse 1. And the Lord appeared to him in the vale of Mamre, as he was sitting at the door of his tent, in the very heat of the day. And when he had lifted up his eyes, there appeared to him 3 men standing near him. And as soon as he saw them, he ran to meet them from the door of his tent, and adored down to the ground. And he said, Lord, if I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away from thy servant. But I will fetch a little water, and wash ye your feet, and rest ye under the tree. And I will set a morsel of bread, and strengthen ye your heart. Afterwards you shall pass on, for therefore are you come aside to your servant. And they said, Do as thou hast spoken. Abraham made haste into the tent to Sarah, and said to her, Make haste, temper together 3 measures of flour, and make cakes upon the hearth. And he himself ran to the herd, and took from thence a calf, very tender and very good, and gave it to a young man, who made haste and boiled it. He took also butter and milk, and the calf which he had boiled, and set before them. But he stood by them under the tree. And when they had eaten, they said to him, Where is Sarah thy wife? He answered, Lo, she is in the tent. And he said to him, I will return and come to thee at this time, life accompanying, and Sarah thy wife shall have a son. Which, when Sarah heard, she laughed behind the door of the tent. Now they were both old and far advanced in years, and had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. And she laughed secretly, saying, After I am grown old, and my Lord is an old man, shall I give myself to pleasure? And the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I, who am an old woman, bear a child indeed? Is there anything hard to God? According to appointment, I will return to thee at this same time, life accompanying, and Sarah shall have a son. Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. But the Lord said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. And when the men rose up from thence, they turned their eyes towards Sodom. And Abraham walked with them, bringing them on the way. And the Lord said, Can I hide from Abraham? What am I about to do? Seeing he shall become a great and mighty nation, and in him all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. For I know that he will command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord, and do judgment and justice, that for Abraham's sake the Lord may bring to effect all the things he hath spoken unto him. And the Lord said, Thy cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is multiplied, and their sin is become exceedingly grievous. I will go down and see whether they have done accordingly to the cry that is come to me, or whether it be not so, that I may know. And they turned themselves from thence, and went their way to Sodom. But Abraham as yet stood before the Lord, and drawing nigh, he said, Wilt thou destroy the just with the wicked? If there be 50 just men in the city, shall they perish with all? And wilt thou not spare that place for the sake of the 50 just, if they be therein? Far be it from thee to do this thing, and to slay the just with the wicked, and for the just to be in like case as the wicked. This is not beseeming thee. Thou who judgest all the earth, wilt not make this judgment? And the Lord said to him, If I find in Sodom 50 just within the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake. And Abraham answered and said, Seeing I have once begun, I will speak to my Lord, whereas I am dust and ashes. What if there be 5 less than 50 just persons? Wilt thou for 45 destroy the whole city? And he said, I will not destroy it, if I find 45. And again he said to him, But if 40 be found there, what wilt thou do? He said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 40. Lord, saith he, be not angry. I beseech thee, if I speak, what if 30 shall be found there? He answered, I will not do it, if I find 30 there. Seeing, saith he, I have once begun, I will speak to my Lord. What if 20 be found there? He said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. I beseech thee, saith he, be not angry, Lord, if I speak yet once more. What if 10 should be found there? And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. And the Lord departed, after he had left speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Chapter 19. Lot, entertaining angels in his house, is delivered from Sodom, which is destroyed. His wife, for looking back, is turned into a statue of salt. Verse 1. And the 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of the city. And seeing them, he rose up and went to meet them, and worshipped prostrate to the ground, and said, I beseech you, my lords, turn into the house of your servant. I lodge there. Wash your feet, and in the morning you shall go on your way. And they said, No, but we will abide in the street. He pressed them very much to turn in unto him. And when they were come into his house, he made them a feast, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they went to bed, the men of the city beset the house, both young and old, all the people together. And they called Lot, and said to him, Where are the men that came into thee at night? Bring them out of hither, that we may know them. Lot went out to them, and shut the door after him, and said, Do not so, I beseech you, my brethren. Do not commit this evil. I have 2 daughters, who as yet have not known man. I will bring them out to you, and abuse you them as it shall please you, so that you do no evil to these men, because they are come in under the shadow of my roof. But they said, Get thee back thither. And again, Thou camest in, said they, as a stranger. Was it to be a judge? Therefore we will afflict thee more than them. And they pressed very violently upon Lot. And they were even at the point of breaking open the doors. And behold, the men put out their hand, and drew in Lot unto them, and shut the door. And them that were without they struck with blindness from the least to the greatest, so that they could not find the door. And they said to Lot, Hast thou here any of thine, son-in-law, or sons, or daughters? All that are thine, bring them out of this city. for we will destroy this place, because their cry is grown loud before the Lord, who hath sent us to destroy them. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law that were to have his daughters, and said, Arise, get you out of this place, because the Lord will destroy this city. And he seemed to them to speak as it were in jest. And when it was morning, the angels pressed him, saying, Arise, take thy wife and the 2 daughters which thou hast, lest thou also perish in the wickedness of the city. And as he lingered, they took his hand, and the hand of his wife, and of his 2 daughters, because the Lord spared him. And they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And there they spoke to him, saying, Save thy life, look not back, neither stay thou in all the country about, but save thyself in the mountain, lest thou be also consumed. And Lot said to them, I beseech thee, my Lord, because thy servant hath found grace before thee, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shown to me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil seize me, and I die. There is the city here at hand, to which I may flee. It is a little one, and I shall be saved in it. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live? And he said to him, Behold, also in this I have heard thy prayers, not to destroy the city for which thou hast spoken. Make haste and be saved there, because I cannot do anything till thou go in thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Sagor. The sun was risen upon the earth, and Lot entered into Sagor. And the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he destroyed these cities, and all the country about, all the inhabitants of the cities, and all the things that spring from the earth. And his wife, looking behind her, was turned into a statue of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning, and in the place where he had stood before with the Lord, he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and the whole land of that country. And he saw the ashes rise up from the earth as the smoke of a furnace. Now when God destroyed the cities of that country, remembering Abraham, he delivered Lot out of the destruction of the cities wherein he had dwelt. And Lot went up out of Sagor, and abode in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he was afraid to stay in Sagor, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters with him. And the elder said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is no man left on the earth, to come in unto us after the manner of the whole earth. Come, let us make him drunk with wine, and let us lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night. And the elder went in and lay with her father, but he perceived not neither when his daughter lay down, nor when she rose up. And the next day the elder said to the younger, Behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine also tonight, and thou shalt lie with him, that we may save seed of our father. They made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and lay with him, and neither then did he perceive when she lay down, nor when she rose up. So the 2 daughters of Lot were with child by their father, and the elder bore a son, and she called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites unto this day. The younger also bore a son, and she called his name Ammon, that is, the son of my people. He is the father of the Ammonites unto this day. So that was it, chapters 15 through 20. Let me know what you guys think. That one was a little long, but there was a couple short chapters in there, so I was able to squeeze out an extra chapter or 2. So let me know what you guys think. I'll continue doing these while I'm trying to figure out what else I want to read, or wait for a suggestion from the comments. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. I'll stop asking when we hit YouTube's metric. And I'll see you guys all later. Oh, one thing. I didn't realize that Sarah's name got corrected into Sarah, or it was changed to Sarah. So I was reading it as Sarah the entire time. All right then, you guys. See you later.